Okay, guys, I hope this is recording properly, because yesterday I recorded the whole thing without sound. Sorry about that. I am in Sketchbook, and I want to do try and keep it quick, tutorial about how to do what you're doing for this week. So you can see what I'm working on here. And you know, I consider this to be about, I don't know, half done. I can do a whole lot more of this. I probably spent 90 minutes on this altogether. 2.5, 3 hours, kind of normal. You can see what I've done so far. You know, I'm kind of putting in some texture back here, the white texture on the architecture, trying to leave that white to sort of blend into the background. You can see here I've done these two figures in two very different patterns. I mean, this woman on the right with the scratchy pattern, she's kind of coming towards me. I made it just her sort of arms and torso. You know, I left her purse and her bag and stuff out, so I kind of erased those. But that's quick scratchy marks. That's more or less blue and orange, the complementary color scheme. And then I just took off on the plaid that this woman already had on her. See, she already had plaid. And so again, blue and orange. And I put down some orange, I put down some blue, I put down a little white. Then I went back, and you can see it's almost like I scratched through. I used the eraser to sort of scratch through it because it was getting a little bit too dense. I have plans to go back onto her black sleeves and legs and kind of do something to that. Tell you, this photograph's taken a long time ago. That outfit's happening, like now. All right. So texture on her shirt and texture, you know, with the drop shadows here. I'll show you how to do this in a minute. It's no mystery. And so let me just go back. I'm going to make a new. Let me save this guy. I'm going to make a new one. Just pick one of the, you want it to be landscape because your photograph, I think, is most likely landscape. I'm going to click Create, save the current sketch. Okay, so I got my new sketch here. If you just, up here in the top, toolbar at the top on the right is the little icon, looks like a landscape, looks like little pyramids or mountains or something. Click on that. It wants me to import an image. It's taking me right to my photos, which is where I brought in my Garry Winogrand photograph. So here it is, lower right screen, boom. So here it is in here, and as soon as I bring it in, I want to go to the transform, which is, no, not the distort. Nudge, maybe I do want to go to transform. So it's that, see in the upper left, that little sort of trapezoid shape? Once I've got that, if I just grab it and kind of spread my fingers like I'm zooming in, but I'm not zooming in. In this case, since I'm in the distort tool, I'm actually enlarging the photo. And I want to enlarge it just enough that it fills the screen. I don't want any white around it. So I want it like full photo. I have to go hair larger. You want to sort of crop off, crop off as little of this guy. So you can see I'm cropping off a hair on the right and the left, a little more than a hair, but not much. I'm most interested in these two ladies here, the woman in the foreground and then kind of the two ladies on the right. So I'm going to kind of move it over too. Okay, and click None. Now, you know, in the other sketch that I had, this was reversed. I think by mistake at one point I flipped it horizontally, which, whatever. I just wanted to show you how to bring that in here. And then if you look over on the right, here's the layers palette. It puts the photo in a layer by itself. I'm going to lock that layer. So that little icon, see, I'm unlocking, locking, unlocking, locking. That little icon of the padlock on that layer on the right of my screen. So I've got that, and I'm going to move it down underneath because I'm going to draw on top of it. So if I go in the layer above it, the sketch layer, I want to show you first how to use the symmetry tool. We talked about this. I guess I showed you a little bit in class. At the top of the screen, the toolbar looks like a little hourglass figure right in the center that has that dotted line in the middle. I think it probably makes perfect sense that the symmetry tool is in the middle of the toolbar. So if I click on that, I don't want the sort of side-to-side symmetry or the next one, the kind of up and down symmetry. I want the radial symmetry. It's the third one in from the left. It looks like a little pinwheel. And then I can adjust the number of sections. It's set at 6. I can make it more or fewer. You can play around with that. I'm going to go with 7. I think an odd number is kind of nice. It keeps it from being too predictably symmetrical. So now that you're in symmetry, any marks that you make anywhere in here are going to be made. Oh shoot, I'm in my eraser, sorry. I'm going to get my technical pen tool. How's that? Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to undo that. Sorry. You want, when you do this symmetry thing, you want it to be white. So I'm choosing altogether white. I want to make my mark a little larger. So here we go. So you can see any marks you make, I might go to the shape tool and get the straight line tool. And, oops. Zoom in here a little bit. I think a lot of interesting stuff happens when you start to connect certain points, you know, like getting a sense of things holding together and kind of meeting up. I need to make my line a little smaller sometimes too. Turn the opacity up. So a finer line, but more opaque. Okay, and I can actually make some shapes. I'll go to the circle tool and think about making some elliptical shapes. Again, I'm trying to kind of get things to line up a little bit in some of these, meaning getting some edges to touch. Oh, that's nice. I like that. So if I make an ellipse that goes over that center line, I get some overlapping. Nice. All right, so, you know, there might be other things. I can use rectangular shapes as well. At some point it gets to be overload. I'm not loving this. I think you'll need to do quite a number of these. I like the one I came up with in my other one better, but this still shows you kind of how this works. I'm going to quick change to a brush tool. I'm just really building up a lot of stuff here. Sorry, I'm getting lost in playing around. Anyway, so let me show. Now I'm going to go back up to the Move tool. So that's up here, and this will let me move it around. I want this to be, and I think you do well as well. The idea is that this little bit is something of a kind of picturing. Think of it as like a halo, and it's sort of picturing what's happening as almost like a thought bubble or something around one of the characters. So I'm picking my main character for obvious reasons, and I'm going to get my eraser now. Let's see how this does. Yeah, it's too small. What about this one? Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to turn up the flow a bit, turn down the size a little. So I'm going to zoom in here. What I want to do is create the illusion that this is behind this character. So every place where it would kind of overlap her, I'm going to erase it. And so you can see I'm just kind of manually going in. I'm erasing it right up to her contour. So right up to the edge of her shoulder, right up to the edge of her neck. I'm going to get it out from in front of her collar, up around her kerchief. Anyway, you can see if you do this all the way around. I'm going to go kind of quickly here. Now look, it may very well require you to do a little playing around with the symmetry tool. I mean, I've played around with it a little bit already. I've got some results I liked, but this one, the results I got here just now, kind of like in front of you, go figure, I don't really like that much. I think it got too busy. I don't know, just didn't feel right. So you can see how it's happening. It's like she's emerging from this fog, but you still kind of see it sort of all the way around her. Now, you could go down. My original plan was to kind of go down and do that all the way around, to make this look like it's totally behind her. You can do that, or I'm going to switch back to my other sketch in a second, and you'll see that it's kind of cool maybe to let some of it kind of be in front. Now that I'm away from the edge, I can make my tool a little bit bigger and just erase, erase, erase more quickly. Okay, I would be more careful than this if I were you. I could zoom in. So you can see how it's kind of like there behind her. It's so this is one pattern you want to do. You want to use the symmetry tool to create this sort of radial symmetry halo around the character. Keep that white. Keep that white. I'm going to go back just because my other sketch is further along and I kind of want to show that to you. So which was it? So this here's another one. This one I kind of like how I sort of like the halo I got here. And can you see how this little bit here I allowed to be in front, this little bit of white. It's kind of nice. It's kind of like coming from behind her, but then it wraps around in front of her a little bit too. One thing you want to try and do throughout this illustration is to look for opportunities for some overlapping. For instance, look down here. When I did the patterning with the drop shadow, which I'll show you in just a minute, which, by the way, the drop shadow makes it kind of 3D, that turns it into a texture. So this pattern slash texture here, look how it's cut off at the edge of her thighs and stuff. So, you know, it seems to kind of like wrap around almost like, you know, patterned stockings or something. But also look up here, look at her waistline. Look at how it's a simple thing, but how her sweater seems to kind of overlap. Look at that. That's a matching little set, that sweater and shorts. Yeah, that's funny. How the hem of her sweater overlaps some of these patterns. So look for overlapping. Sometimes the bigger part of creating a convincing illusion is just making it clear what overlaps what. So here's the one I've kind of worked on the most. And you can see I hid, whoops. Oh no, I got rid of it in here. I actually erased the halo thing because that's what I was going to do. I was going to show you that in here. Let me just do one real quickly here. Yeah, that's not working. Shoot. Okay, eraser, pen, brush. Okay. Not working. Come on. Symmetry, radial symmetry. Okay. Up a little bit. Nope. Okay, you get the idea. Move her up. Oh, I can't move that because that's part of that. Sorry, guys. Gotta go back. I'm just going to do without that here. I just wanted to show you the range of different things here. I apologize. So look back here. I've been trying to take a cue from the architecture. Use sort of vertical and horizontal lines that kind of rhyme with the shapes of the architecture, keeping those white so they're in the background. You see the plaid and the mark making on these guys. I wanted to show you, you know, how to do the drop shadow thing. So I'm going to continue with my drawing. I'm going to go to this guy here. Look, I've got blue and orange on these two ladies. So that's that complementary pair. I've got violet and yellow working on this main character here. And this brownie color is just a really dark yellow. So I'm going to stick with the violet and yellow. I'm going to kind of create a sort of connection between this young woman walking away and this guy with the mustache who I think maybe be looking at her is like, wonder where she's going. So I'm going to zoom in here on this guy, and I'm going to get purple on his ass. But let's see here. So, purple. Got my brush tool. I'm going to turn the flow way down, and yeah, make my brush a little smaller. It's kind of nice. Turn the flow down on some brushes, and you get a nice little sort of gravelly texture. Go a little larger than that. So I can start painting this guy in. So I'm zoomed in close enough that I can really get his contour. I don't want to be too broad with it. Since he's smaller in the photo, I almost need to be more careful with his contour. Brush size a little bigger. To go violenter. So I'm I'm trying to, we've talked about shape a little bit in here now. Getting the shape just right in some cases is really important. Bums me out. I didn't really want that quite as opaque down there, so I'm going to erase it and go back over it with the color I like better. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna kind of get him all the way up here. Trying to observe his contour best I can. Now look, this isn't the only way to do it. You know, in the other woman, I did the many little marks, which kind of looked like a. And just as I'm going up here, I'm thinking I'm just going to keep it his suit. I'm going to let his head pop out, just straight up. So his feet are a slightly different color. Sue me. So what I kind of want to do is on top of this, so, you know, color-wise, he's starting to rhyme with her just a little bit. I can see I didn't get his collar well enough. Suit jacket. So on top of this, I want to show you how to do the sort of patterning with the drop shadow. To do that, I'm going to start out with, well, let's see what brush works. I'll turn the size of this way down. See, how's that do? Not dark enough. Hold on. Oh, we need to make it dark. So I want to make the drop shadow first. So yeah, that's probably about right. I'm just going to make similar shapes to what is on her. So I'm going to kind of create little elliptical drop shadows. They're going to kind of just look like spots at first. You know, they could be different shapes. I mean, they could be kind of diamond shapes. When I do that, I'll do sort of diamond shapes like I did in the other one. Now, I've got this set for really soft, and it's dark. I mean, think shadow. You know, it would be dark, a little bit transparent, and kind of soft on the edge. All right, so I'm just kind of putting random diamond shapes here. And I'll come back in a minute with trying to be not too regular about it, you know, make it really look kind of arbitrary. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along in a sense. I mean, I'm operating on the idea that I want him to sort of rhyme with her a bit, but, you know, color-wise a little. So I'm going to go with yellow again. So pick, remember I'm doing opposites, so I'll go kind of a yellow-orange, kind of a blue violet. But remember how I told you try not to stay way out here on the super bright intense. Bring it in a bit, bring it down a bit. You know, make it a bit of a tertiary color so it's not quite, because let me tell you something, this purple is going to make the yellow seem yellower by contrast. So let's see how this is. I go to my pen. Oh yeah, it's not bad. So I'm just making little diamonds. You can see I'm kind of offsetting it so that I mean, even this yellow is borderline. Look how bright that is. I'm going to go back and tone that yellow down. Go back and choose a different goat. So go back a little bit. Not quite so yellow. Look, and that still looks super yellow compared to that. Holy cow! Look, how far do I have to go back to make it less yellow? Okay, that's helping it blend in a little bit more. So you can see I'm being pretty loose with it. I might be looser than you'd like. I know some of you are like, not a problem, be loose. Others might think, why is he so messy? Now can you see here where I've got this guy floating up? I'll probably go back with my eraser. Oh, too big an eraser. Whoop. The other eraser, how are we doing there? Yeah, and erase right along that edge, because I want this to read like it's on him. So then I'll go back to my pen. And can you see how, you know, those then read, these soft dark shapes read like the shadows underneath. Remember, adding a little bit of three-dimensionality creates something more like texture, not just pattern. So, I would keep working on this. As I look at this, I'm kind of loving these shadows. Do I want to add some texture to the shadows? I kind of think I might. I'm not sure. That's completely up to you, but I would take this even further. Remember, I'm missing the big halo around here. I'm not going to redo that here. There are three things you've got to do in these. Remember, you're doing that radial symmetry halo around the main character, which is this thing, right? The halo. So you're doing the halo around the character. You're doing, secondly, an instance of a texture using extreme or repetitive mark making. So an example of that is like this, for sure. And even this a little bit, the plaid, and even this a little bit. So it's not just one instance. Please don't think of it as like bare minimum. Do more than the bare minimum. You want to like make your piece really cool and rich. And then thirdly, you're doing a texture, not a pattern, but a texture by creating a little three-dimensionality with shadows. So that's just what I was showing you here, the dots on her legs, or this guy, the drop shadows with the sort of floating thing above it. Now, if you can think of other ways to use that, I mean, I could think of other ways to do it. It wouldn't just have to be floating spots like this. I mean, what if you used, where was our, that, yeah. What if you did a drop shadow thing, but with more like stripes. So maybe this woman back here has stripes going across her. So you've got that, make it a crisscross thing. So this is the soft sort of transparent black that I use. So maybe there's that, and then on top of that is where the, okay, forgot to get the color. Maybe on top of that, I'm just going to go with white. Off-white. Maybe on that, top of that is where the thing is. So this isn't just plaid. You can see the white's like it's floating above the darker shadow underneath of it. That gives it a little bit of three-dimensionality, almost like a waffle kind of thing. Might need to make those shadows a little darker, but you get the idea. Okay, I think that does it for you. Have fun, and, again, this is maybe 60% done. Keep going with this, really, really make it rich and full of pattern and texture. And remember we're working on the complementary color scheme. So blue and orange over on the left, we got violet and yellow over on the right, okay? So try and think in terms of those kinds of rhyming opposite colors on the color wheel. All right, be cool, have fun.